Good evening, everyone. We are broadcasting live today from Toronto, Canada. Today, we're here to discuss a very important topic affecting everyone globally. This is a global phenomenon brought about by a new president that was just elected in the United States of America. We all know who we are talking about, President Donald Trump. So I have with me in the studio today, all the way from Northern Canada, Dr. Douglas. Dr. Douglas is joining us from Alberta, and he has written many articles on social issues affecting people around the world. You are welcome to today's programs.
My pleasure.
So, the question that is Donald Trump trying to isolate America from the rest of the world economically?
His policies, I don't think he has the intention to isolate, but to concentrate America's attention towards the um, the American First kind of initiative instead of having to be the savior and the police of the world without actually looking back home to take care of the things that they need to take care of his citizens. With that said, I think his policies are not really looking to the broader macro impact that they're going to have on the United States itself.
Okay.
Uh, because at the end of the day, he has kind of now fractured relationships with the American allies, which are now looking elsewhere to prevent what is happening right now from happening again. They have to ensure their securities are intact economically and militarily and all of the other ways that they've been threatened just now by Trump's policies of the now. Um, America,
Especially Canada.
especially Canada, especially
Yeah.
Europe, especially Mexico.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, it's the greatest impact that America that the Trump's policies are having right now is more or less on the NATO members that have been told that they need to pay up, like they've not been doing something before. The economic relationship of the North American agreements have now been thrown aside and being redefined by these same policies and tariffs that he has put in place. It is very pertinent for these countries right at this point in time, which they are renegotiating their relationship with America. And that is now allowing these people to look towards China, which they have jumped on the bandwagon on the side of the Americans to isolate China for so long. And these people right now, especially in Europe, have now begun to kind of remove the tariffs that they've placed on Chinese goods. And I think Canada has to do the same. Especially, I think understandably, the reason that Canada has the 100% tariff on Chinese EVs is to safeguard the auto workers in Ontario. But with these new tariff threats that is coming from the Trump's administration, I think it is important for Canada to reevaluate these tariffs and reevaluate his economic relationship with the United States.
So, how can these policies, especially the tariffs imposed on different countries, be beneficial to America as a country?
He's going about it from, he's using a multi-pronged approach to addressing the debt situation, which is one of the mandate that the Doge department has to more or less streamline the cost of operations, cost of governance. But on the other hand, he saw tariff as a way of generating revenue for the American government in a way. But when we look at it, at the end of the day, the long-term impact of these tariffs are going to be on the American consumer. The truth is, it is a tax on the American consumer rather than the countries that the goods are coming from, because tariffs are paid by the importers, not the exporters. So at the end of the day, it's either they are going to be subsidized by the government or passed on to the end consumer to pay for the cost of this tariff. But at the end of the day, it's not just the Americans that is that these tariffs are affecting alone. It's also impacting the the countries that are
Just
also sending goods to these countries, to the United States, especially for Canada, because how interwoven our economy is. It is our biggest trading partner. I think about 74% of our goods are sent to the United States, whereby he's very draconian, drastic with the Chinese. America only constituted about 13% of the Chinese market, Chinese product consumption. So it's not really on the Chinese as Trump
America.
might be thinking, right? But the truth is, it does impact many of the industry that ensure that the logistics industry, for example, the transportation industries, for example, the auto manufacturing industry, for example, the cosmetic industry, for example, the fashion industries, all of these different markets and
So,
verticals are going to be impacted. That's for sure.
yeah, before any country imposing tariffs on other countries, if for instance you donate goods coming from Canada, you ensure that you have established organizations, companies, factories, that will produce these products in your country, that you believe that your country is self-reliant, you have these industries, you can produce what is needed in your country before you impose tariff on other countries. In the case of Donald Trump, he didn't wait to establish some factories and organizations, things. And we are talking about make policies that will ensure that the country is self-reliant before imposing tariffs on many countries like this. So it's not only affecting other countries, but affecting American consumers, especially those with low income. That is the problem right now. So this type of policies, we are looking at him as too impulsive in his policies.
Yes. And that's true. That's true. It's not just having the factories; they can't just happen overnight.
Exactly.
Also, you also have to look at the needed infrastructure to facilitate any kind of
Oh,
distribution for any other, especially when it comes to energy. That is why some products and industries were exempted. One of those industries is the energy industry, because it's not just something you just come overnight and impose tariff, because there have to be a pre-existing infrastructure to allow distribution and supply of those very necessary products and services. Um, if Trump really wants to, when we really look at it critically, like you said, the policies, the tariff has become very impulsive and egocentric. It is very harsh to say that, but it has become very egocentric. It's going tit for tat with the Chinese. But the best way Canada to look at it as Canadians is the way Doug Ford went about it. Is actually ensuring that the impact is felt by the end consumer, um, by actually initially imposing imposing other costs to the Americans for having the electricity on the electricity bill on that end, not on this end. If Trump were to fully have a complete understanding of the impact of tariff, that is how he should have looked at it. Instead, having an kind of a way whereby it is an export tax per se rather than a tariff, because at the end of the day you are having the exporter paying the taxes
That's it.
and
Instead of
generating revenue, instead of you having your citizens paying
to
this tariff to
exactly,
accept product coming into your country. So
exactly.
he has to look at the long-term impact of these policies.
Supposed to
Otherwise,
be taxes, exactly.
yeah, it's going to have to backfire on the American people.
I think American people should do something as soon as possible because they're going to suffer from these policies and the tariffs as well.
Ultimately, there is going to be a negotiation and agreement subsequent. We have to also put into consideration that he's using a very strategic method of dealing with his tenure right now. He's yet to actually establish 3 months in office, right? So I think it was sworn in January, so about 4 months in office. So at the end of the day, he has more than 3 years to deal with a lot of these things, and he's dealing with he's front loading most of his all of these hard policies at the initial stage, deal with them and try and rectify or rectify any of the agreement in the future. But the danger of that is that he's in the process destroying decades of relationship that
With
has been established with the rest of the world, with Europe, with his North American partners, especially Canada, that has the longest and the largest border, the admired largest, longest border that is not manned by any military, based on the fact of the mutual trust that both countries has, and that trust right now is being fractured from in the economic front, which might lead to other distrust from both ends of the border.
first time in the history of Canada that Canadian government urge Canadians to stay away from traveling to the United States of America. I was amazed. I know that I'm young here in this country and we are also young to the history of Canada, but I've studied the history of Canada very, very well since I've been in this country. But I've never seen anywhere in the history of Canada whereby Canadian government is currently urging Canadians to stay away from traveling to the US because there were cases whereby Canadians were being kidnapped, according to the Canadian government, were being kidnapped, detained, in the US. So what's going on with Donald
I'm
Trump?
not
Beside the tariff, let's also look at the immigration policies. What is going on right now between the United States and other countries? The immigration policy is another thing. The tariffs is more louder. We know that that one is really loud right now in the world. But what about the immigration policies that Canada?
Yeah, I'm not aware
Oh,
that
oh,
Canada has,
you are
I'm
not
not,
aware of
yeah,
that.
I'm
Oh,
not aware
yeah.
that Canada has formally made a
Yes,
statement of,
yes, yes,
advisory on Canadians.
yes.
Now, but I do know that Canadians are very patriotic, and we've taken it upon ourselves to more or less boycott American products and traveling down to America for any kind of expense, just to ensure that we are supporting our people and supporting our economy with our dollar. But in terms of the immigration policy, I'm very neutral about it, in the fact that his handling of the immigration, if you look at it, I mean, being immigrants ourselves, we can be a little sentimental in terms of some of these policies. But I look at it from a different perspective. That is attention is towards legal migration and against illegal migration. You know, we can't say because you are already in the country because you that is okay to come through the window. Let's presume the country is our own compound and somebody is jumping over the fence to our compound, and we say because it's already in the compound we should admit this person and make that person part of our family. No, we have to ensure that we know this individual, we know where they're coming from, and if they're admissible, we definitely are willing to open our doors to let them in. But with that said, but we see situation of discriminatory implementation of that same policy of going against certain group of people and being very lenient with certain group of people. So in that instance, it is left for them to implement their migration and immigration policy. But how we Canadians handle that is left to us. Canada has been very friendly to migrants that are leaving the United States to America, to Canada. But in recent times, I think we signed an agreement with them of whereby, first place, wherever you came through first is where you're going to be returned to. I think if with this in place right now, my question becomes if Canada is going to be implementing that agreement that they have with America, whereby you send anybody that is coming from America back to America, or we're going to revert back to the very friendly immigration policy of admitting anybody that is coming through our borders and seeking for asylum and protection.
I think that is a very old policy. I think it's called Safe Third Country, something like that. I
Yeah,
forgot
safe
the
third
full
country policy.
trace
Yeah.
policy. Yes, yeah. So that is a very old policy that the first country that you arrive, you have to seek asylum in that country. So Donald Trump policy, I think there should be a redress.
Well, I'm still back to travel advisory. I don't think Canada having a travel advisory, I think that would be a major step. But we all are encouraging ourselves to make sure we keep our dollars within Canada. But in terms of the judge of his policies are going to be the citizen. The truth is, his American first policies is one of the mandates that was given to him by the electorate, and the Americans are going to be the one to better judge, give him that scorecard of if it was a pass or a fail. But we do know that the relationship that he's having, the geopolitics right now is not very friendly. It's destroying a lot of relationship. That's for sure. But we cannot really judge his administration at this very early stage yet. We don't know the impact of these policies yet. It's a divided country. His policies, his first term was that divisive. This second term is equally as divisive as well. So I think last week there was a huge protest that was put on there for against the policies and his administration. But the truth is, I just feel that these policies are too early for judgment. We cannot really judge them yet.
We can judge it because this one can be judged immediately. You can see the reaction of the world, the whole world, even Americans themselves. Have you read the comments of Americans on some of our Canadian government's videos? Have you read their comments, how they are apologizing to Canadian government? I would tell you 90 to 99% of Americans that commented in any of those videos are apologizing to us in Canada about his policy, Donald Trump's policy. So it just shows that he's failing already.
Yeah, looking at the rating was released today. The rating has plummeted.
Yeah.
That's for sure. But I do believe that his policies and the drastic nature of these policies were designed for front loading to ensure that they deal with the difficult things first and then retract and retrace the policies to where they can find an advantage and a better landing for America than anything else.
It was too much in a hurry. He rushed into these policies.
That's intentional. It's an intentional chaos. That's what I believe. It's an intentional chaos. But my concern is that he doesn't do too much damage to America's relationship, to Americans' economy in the process, that he will now have to put more effort to repairing the damages that have been done. That is going to be the concern for that. What I've tried to stay away from is an outright criticism of his policies, just to say his policies are bad, everything about him is bad. No, we Canadians and everybody else in the world did not vote for Donald Trump. Americans voted for Donald Trump. His primary responsibility is to the American people. And when he says American first, I believe, especially us from Africa, would believe that African leaders should take a cue from the Donald Trump playbook and say Africans first, Nigeria first, Uganda, Kenya first. So that way we can look back into our economy, look back into our societies, look at the areas that we are lagging and begin to address those areas and begin to rectify those areas and put policies in place to ensure that these African nations are benefiting from their government. So it's not a bad thing for a government to say, my country first, my people first. So Canada should also come from that same purview of Canadians first. And I think we are beginning to realize that now, that Canada first, because there are so many policies, especially the tariff that we have placed on some Chinese goods, because Americans said so, that we should come from the Canadian first policy as well, Canada first, because we have a mandate that says by 2035 we shouldn't have access to combustion vehicles from any car dealership, to ensure that we meet our energy and global mandate for cleaner energy. So in that area, we should look at Canada first to ensure that Canadians can have easy access to cheaper electric vehicles for Canada, to ensure that we are able to meet that climate mandate that we have, zero climate mandate that we have now engaged and commit ourselves to. With the Liberal government that is coming in, or rather potentially coming in, that's going to be a huge policy that they're going to ensure that they stick to. So in that case, we have to ensure that if we have that kind of mandate in place, that we have to also ensure that it's not going to be a price tag that the Canadian consumer will have to pay by force, without having, when we have alternative that we could be getting from other market like China.
I understand that he's taking American first in everything. And I listened to him in one of his interviews, where he said he's imposing tariffs on these countries because America is in deficit of $36 trillion. We understand that, but the way he's approaching it is too drastic. He's a little bit impulsive in his policies. I understand that he's taking American first in everything, and the immigration policies as well. We understand, because he cares about America. He's trying to protect his country. But the way he's approaching it, that's what we are talking about. You cannot rush into policies like this. So, for you to be self-reliant, there are many things that you have to, it will take some years for America to be self-reliant. What are we talking about? To implement infrastructures that will drive the economy, that America will become self-reliant. It will take few years, I would say, at least 2 years. So you don't just rush into it immediately. And it's not only affecting his country, it's affecting the whole world. And that policies, or the tariff as well, has compromised his relationship with the relationship of America with other countries as well. Even the NATO. I heard the other day maybe America is planning to leave NATO. No, America cannot leave NATO. But look at the way he's treating NATO countries. That is the thing.
Yeah, that's what we just said a moment ago about the impact that these policies could have on the relationship that America has with the rest of the world, especially with his allies, like the NATO allies and the North American allies. That's for sure. We can see the spontaneity in his policies, but at the end of the day, um, we have to understand as Canadians. It doesn't matter which country that is dealing with these policies right now to have to look at, okay, where are the alternatives? What are the things that need to be done to ensure that these erratic policies are not going to have long-term impact on the economies that are dealing with America. In terms of self-reliance, his way of looking at it is the fact that he believes that America is self-sustained, can sustain itself. But the truth is, you need international trade to ensure that your economy is sustainable in terms of having to export your product that you are trying to engage the economy with. That is by, bringing people to come and produce within your boundaries, ensuring that your people have employment and things like that. Now the question becomes the product that they're going to produce.
It
Are
would
you
be
going? Are you
uh
producing just for the Americans, or you're producing
exactly.
to sell outside of the borders? So
That's a
that
good
is
one.
where his cabinet need to really take time to discuss with him and ensure that they educate and throw light in these areas. But I just believe that these policies, how we take it as Canadians, how we take it as Africans and other nations that are outside of the borders of the United States, is to ensure that we diversify our relationship with other markets and look into the policies that we've put in place because of our relationship with the US
Yes.
and ensure that we have that diversified opportunities to deal with other markets to ensure that we don't become victims of the Trump policy.
Thank you. That is what I wanted to say. You have already said that. Exactly. So it is time for Canada because we have learned a lot of lessons from what just happened between the US and Canada. That Canada should be negotiating, build on other trade allies. With Europe, I think Canada is planning to work with European countries as well. So what Donald Trump did to Canada is like we were not prepared for this. We have never prepared for such policy. You understand? So that is why we were all outraged. Canadian government was outraged over the policy. But I think from now on, this lesson learned that Canada will move forward and build trade relationship with other countries, as what they have said that they are planning to work with European countries. So that's what you just you know, emphasized. Thank you. I think if there's any other thing we need to add to this program, we can go ahead and say it before we say bye for today.
My addendum will be to the African government,
Oh,
to take a cue from the playbook and take the time to look within the boundaries of our countries back home and be able to put the right policies in place to, when one, ensure that we are not victims of these policies, and two, to ensure that we are self-sustained, not to be looking to the West as our savior, that we have what it takes to build our economies without being on the receiving end as if we are paupers. So that is going to be my last take on that. But at the end of the day, Trump has the right to say American first. So also does Canada, and so does every other government. It is a great time in human history. We should take a cue from this and look inward and put the right policies in place that would benefit our peoples.
Thank you.
It is China putting Chinese first. It has made China a great superpower it is today within decades. So I think Trump, in his thinking, is taking a book from the Chinese policies. So we Africans and African leaders should take a play from the Trump and the Chinese book and ensure that we build a better African societies.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So,
It was a pleasure being with you today.
yeah, thank you for joining us today. We look forward to bringing you back to this program to discuss mostly about what is going on in the world between America and the rest of the world. Thank you. We'll see.
Welcome.